Some of the easy questions from this side of the room today. Well, can you tell that story? No, I should not. So West was when we had kids, or when we had our first kid, we had watched other people have kids and do it wrong. I'm sure a lot of you have had that experience. A lot of you without kids, you can see people who have kids and be like, I would never do that. And I was sort of determined to have, when we had kids, I was determined to just fold them into our life and enjoy all of the same things that we've been enjoying all along, but with them tagging along and like seeing the world through the adventure that was our life. And I think it was a great idea. And so we had West, and after the first, initial shock where it wore off and the physical healing had set in, we decided to take a little road trip with him. At that time, he was 3 months old, and we decided to drive from Vancouver down to LA and stop along the way. And he, at the time, hadn't yet discovered the joy of road tripping. So he hated nothing more than being in a car seat. And he would, as soon as he got put into a car seat, start screaming. And I was like, he's gonna be fine. He'll just adjust and realize how fun this is right away. And then he cried the whole first 3 hours of driving, 4 hours of driving, where we were stopping at a friend's party for the first night of our road trip. And the friend used to be a stripper. Most of her friends at the party were also strippers. And I have a photo in my hidden photos file with West sleeping swaddled on a bed with two pretty much entirely naked women dancing right next to him. And then we got a few hours of sleep, got back in the car. West cried all day again till we got to Oregon. And by the time we got to Oregon, he had cried so much that his cry was like, and I was like, yeah, it's gonna be great. He's gonna realize how much fun we're having. And that night, actually, this is sort of a sidebar. That night we had dinner with friends in Oregon who had also just had a kid, their kid was 4 months old, and they were having a terrible time with sleep. And I said, you know what, Wes has been sleeping 8 hours a night, every night. I don't know, we just got lucky, I guess. And that night, he started waking up every 2 hours for the next 2 years. That's a very important lesson in knocking on wood, which I didn't do. Anyway, next day he cries all day long in the car. Cried so much at one point he threw up. I am a good father. We got to San Francisco, met up with some friends. They're like, hey, we're going to a rave later. Well, we've been cooped up in the car for a long time, and I think all of us would enjoy going to a rave. Around midnight. That's great. And so I knew enough about parenting to know that you have to protect kids' ears, young children around loud noises, because their hearing could get permanently damaged if you don't. And we had also recently discovered the Ergo, which is a baby carrier that's sort of like a backpack that you put the baby in and you bounce them like this, and then they gently fall asleep. And or cry, but sometimes they're crying you can't hear because they've lost their voice. And so I had a very profound moment where it was around 1 o'clock in the morning, I was at a rave, West was sleeping in this thing, and I had my hands pressed up against his ears, trying to get the sound to not permanently deafen him. And I was like, okay, maybe things are going to change a little bit. Going to change a little bit. And that was like a hard reset moment when I realized that if you have kids, you have to start not making everything about yourself. You have to start making your life about other people, which can be a hard transition if you're as selfish as I have been. And I went through a long period of almost mourning that independence and freedom with the kids. And really, no joke, I spent a long time like wishing that I could be doing something other than reading bedtime stories. I would notice that I would be like putting Mason to sleep even when she was, I was still sort of resisting it when she was a little baby. I'd be putting her to sleep and like I know that it takes her about 3 minutes to fall asleep once I start bouncing her. So I would just like count down 180 seconds and then be like, all right, maybe I can put her down now. Instead of just being in the moment and like, oh, you're right, with my baby, he's not gonna be a baby for very long. I wanna enjoy this. And at some point, I started to realize like, this is fleeting. I need to take advantage of this. I'm gonna have a much worse life if I don't suck up these moments with these kids. And it has to sort of be, at least partly, on their terms. It can't be just about me. So it was a big transition, but when I finally worked through it most of the way, it was a transition for the better, I think.